Hey guys, we're out on the range today and we're going to be talking about 3 different ways that you can get your muzzle on target to be able to shoot. These are 3 different ways to do it, but it's not necessarily have to be individual distinct ways of doing it. It can be more of a continuum of from one end to the other. The first type is just going to be point shooting, where you're not using your sights at all, you're just pointing your gun at the target. The second one is called quick sight, or you're just getting a glimpse of the sights as you bring the sights up. Make sure they're in the general direction of where you want the gun to go. And then the third option is true sighted fire. You're using the sights to be able to line up the target and get the bullet going exactly where you want it to. Of course, point shooting is going to be the quickest way to get the shot off. So you just point the gun in the general direction of the target, you're focused on the target, and you shoot. As you go toward the other end of the spectrum, then the speed slows down, but the accuracy goes up. So your point shooting is the least accurate but quickest way to shoot, and sighted fire is the most accurate but the slowest way to shoot. And you can use a combination of the 3 when you're shooting, especially in a defensive situation. You may not have time to, and you probably wouldn't have time to do true sighted fire to be able to get your gun on target. So when you're practicing, you want to practice getting more accurate with the point shooting so that you can get the gun on target and not have to depend on your sights all the time to get in the general area of where you're trying to go. Again, like with defensive shooting, you're not trying to get a bullseye. You're aiming center mass on that. You're just trying to get in a vital zone that's going to stop whatever is coming at you. So with the point shooting, we'll start with that. Again, you'll be facing the target, and just like you would point your finger at a tree or what, just like I'm out here on the range right now, so there's trees all around us. So if I'm pointing that tree over there, I've got my hand up to where I can see my finger, and I know that I'm pointed at that tree. So I can see, I'm focused on the target, so I can see that tree clearly. My finger's a little bit blurry, but I know I'm pointed in the right direction. Okay, so to demonstrate what we're talking about with point shooting, so we'll pick this tree right here. It's a little skinny pine that's here on the side of the range. And if I'm going to point at that tree, I'm not going to have my hand down here where I can't see my finger. I'm not going to have my eyes pointed this direction and the finger pointed over here, because I'm not pointing at what I'm looking at. When you're pointing at something, you're looking at the target, but you're getting your hand up at eye level and you're looking across your finger to be able to find your target. So if I'm going to point at that tree, I'm going to have my hand up here to where I can see it over, I can look over my finger and see the tree right here, and I'm definitely pointing at that particular tree. I'm not pointing at that little skinny one right there or the little dead one right here beside it. I'm pointing at this one, the bigger one right here in the middle, right in front of me. So when you're using point shooting, you're focused on the target rather than the sights of the gun. So the sights are going to be blurry when you're doing any type of point shooting. So you're just looking over the top of the gun and it's pointed in the general direction of where the target is. So when you're doing that and you're trying to stop a threat of whatever is coming at you, then you're going to be pointed at center mass. And again, with point shooting, the object of the point shooting is not to get a bullseye. It is to stop the threat, because that's going to be, you're using that in a defensive situation, and you don't have time to be able to use the sights, get a perfect sight alignment, and have plenty of time to get your shot off. So you're just trying to hit center mass of whatever the thing is that is coming at you. You're just looking to get a shot on target to be able to stop the threat. So let's look at that a little bit more. We're going to go back over here toward the target, and I'll demonstrate with the gun, because I want the gun pointed in a safe direction. And just to let everybody see, the gun is unloaded, no rounds in the magazine, so the gun is safe when we're doing all of the work here. But I still want to be pointed downrange, because you always want to follow the safety rules when you're doing any type of practice. If you start from the low ready position, then you're just going to bring the gun up to where you're looking across the sights there, just across the top of the gun, and you're not focused on the sights, but you're just trying to get the gun in the general direction of the target. So if I'm pointing at the target here, then I know the gun is pointed at that big black target. I'm not necessarily going for the bullseye right there in the center of it, but I'm going to be able to hit the target there on the board, and I'm going to get that round on target. Now, the next way to practice your sighting is with the quick sight picture. And when you do the quick sight picture, you're using the sights of the gun, but instead of trying to focus on the front sight like you would during true sighted fire, you're just getting a quick sight picture. You're making sure that the rear sight and the front sight are in general alignment in the horizontal plane, and you're not trying to get true dead center with the front sight in between the rear dots, but you're just getting that quick sight picture. You bring the gun up, get a quick look at the sights, and then you're able to pull the trigger. So when it comes up, you can take a quick look at the picture and then pull the trigger. So you can practice that, and again, with the gun not being loaded, you're not able to tell whether I actually broke the shot or not really that well, because you can't hear the click from the gun. But when you bring the gun up, you can just get a quick look at the sights. Again, they're kind of fuzzy in the picture, but you're still focusing on the target itself. So you know you're looking at the target, but you're just getting a quick sight picture here to make sure they're in general alignment with the target. So when you bring it up, you just get a quick look at the sights, and then you can break the shot. Now, that's going to be kind of a balance in between speed and accuracy. Probably a little bit more accurate than strict point shooting, but it's not going to be as quick as point shooting. And then the last way to sight your gun is with true sighted fire. So you're using the sights on the gun, you're taking enough time to get a proper sight picture, and anytime you're doing sighted fire, then you want to focus on the front sight. You're not focusing on the rear sight, and you're not focusing on the target. Your eyes can only focus on one thing at a time. So when you're practicing sighted fire, you're trying to make sure that the sights are lined up horizontally here, and then they're also, you got an equal amount of space in between the dots on the front sight. So if you got a 3-dot sight system like this gun, then the dots are equally spaced as you go across the horizontal plane there. So if you have it more to one side or the other, then that's going to throw your shot off the opposite direction of whichever more space is on that side. So focusing on the front sight is going to be a little bit slower as far as the rate of fire, but as you practice, you can get fairly quick even using sighted fire as you're shooting at the target. So with the sighted fire, you got the gun up, you're taking a little bit more time, make sure you get the proper sight picture, and then you break the shot. So again, it's going to be a slower shot than it would be point shooting or the quick sight picture, but you're going to be more accurate with the shot. So practicing with sighted fire, you always just want to focus on those sights, especially the front sight, and make sure that you're getting everything lined up, because as you go further out, the more variation there is in between the front sight and the rear sight. If you're not have that same amount of space on each side of it, then the further you go out, the further you're going to miss the target. Up close like this at 3 yards, it's not going to be that big a deal. You might be off half an inch one way or the other, depending on how far you had your sights misaligned up here. But as you go further down the range and you get out to 15, 20 yards or even 25 yards all the way down at the end of the range down there, that same amount of discrepancy in the sight picture, you may miss that whole piece of cardboard. Rather than not get on the black, you may miss the cardboard completely, depending on how far your sights are off. So as the further your sights get off, the further you go. If everything is lined up perfectly, then everything just goes straight down toward the target. But the more you get off one way or the other, the more that opens up as you're going down the range. So the further you get down there, the wider that gets, and you may miss the target completely if you don't get the sights lined up properly. So you want to make sure that when you're practicing shooting and doing any type of sighted fire, that you're lining up your sights properly. And if you don't have a 3-dot sight system or whatever sight system you're working with, make sure you know how to properly line that sight up so that you can get the shot off and you can be accurate with your shots. And again, in defensive situations, you may not have the whole amount of time that you would need to get a perfect sighted shot off, but the more you practice with sighted fire, the quicker you're going to get at acquiring that target or acquiring the proper sight picture so that you can get it on target and you can get the shot off even quicker using sighted fire. So check out doubleeaglegunworks.com for more information on sight pictures, and like and subscribe down at the bottom. We'll talk to you later.